he had it, bought it when I was a baby. It's been in the family ever since.
Ah, splendid. I am of the opinion that this gun with its accessories would be worth 2,000, 2,500.
It's great to see a fire screen like this that's in mint condition and all of a piece with the picture and the frame, you know, of exactly the same style. How did you come by it?
When we bought a house 3 years ago, it was in the house, and we fell in love with the fire screen and the house.
You're quite right. We fortunately know the subject because I did have a sneak at the back,
Yeah.
and I gather it shows Cardinal Wolsey
Yeah.
and Catherine of Aragon, and it's been copied from a Berlin woolwork pattern, which was based on one of the Boydell Shakespeare series prints, and it actually shows the scene from Henry VIII, Act 3, Scene 1. What makes this special is that it's worked on a very fine canvas in a small tent stitch,
Yeah.
rather than the more usual coarser cross stitch, which means you can get much finer detail, and also the fact that it's unfaded. But I must advise you to have it reglazed.
We didn't know there'd been any glass in it.
Well, there should be, because eventually it's going to get dirty or get the moth in it. But in fact, as much as the picture, I like the frame, because that is in the style that at the time was called François Premier, after the French King François I, which is very similar to the sort of English Elizabethan style, but a bit more florid with naturalistic detail that you didn't get in the Elizabethan style. I mean, here we've got a typical sort of 16th century Frenchman. These masks, these sort of Renaissance type masks are very characteristic, and this nice scrolling detail at the bottom. Altogether, it's a terribly handsome thing. What did you pay for it, if it isn't a rude question?
£400.
Well, you did very well. This would certainly sell for well in excess of £1,000 now, because textiles are very much an up-and-coming thing, and, you know, it makes a real focal point in a room.
Well, when you first look at it, it's such a pure little table that it's almost difficult to believe that it's right, especially these days, when such things are quite rare.
Yeah.
How long have you had it?
My father bought it in 1947.
1947, just after the
1947,
war,
yeah.
right? I wonder how much he paid for it then.
£6.
£6. Well, that wasn't a bad price for a little oak side table. Let's have a look at it in detail. I mean, it should be 1660, 1670, that sort of period. It has the most wonderful colour. And if you look at it very carefully, you look at the top, you know these cleated ends.
Mm-hmm.
See how they protrude a little at each corner, right? You've got that little bit sticking out.
Yes.
Now then, wood will always shrink that way, across the grain, never the length of the grain.
Yeah.
Right? So, over the years, that's why you've got, they're not splits, they're just the joints have widened up, because the timber has contracted and left these ends protruding. Now, not many people who are faking or copying a table or forging a table would go to that amount of trouble.
No.
Now, if we tip it back, first of all, it stands well, nice long legs, bobbin turning, and if we just have a look here at the colour, now this is quite remarkable. That sort of raised grain, this sort of, the effect of oil coming out of the wood and being built up and hardening and then creating almost its own shine, its own patina. The serrated edge along the bottom is good, that goes all the way around. And if we pull out the drawer, just for a second, it runs on a rabbet or rebate here with a single dovetail, and until about 1710, those single dovetails were always fixed with one nail, a handmade clout nail. There it is, just there.
Yes.
And you almost get the impression the last man to hit that with a hammer was the man who made it. Well, it probably was, actually, because no one else has ever touched it. I mean, if you were doing a study on the construction of furniture of the late 17th century, there is the ideal piece. There is your perfect example. You couldn't improve on that. Have a look underneath, and you can see there, right, the original runner, look, and another clout nail. Look at that. That is wonderful. So rarely see that. For obvious reasons. You know, the draw's been pushed in and out for 300 years.
Yes, yeah.
You see the peg ends coming through from the tenon joints?
Yes.
The sort of
yes.
little rough bits of wood. Again, nobody would bother to do that today. I mean, if they were faking a table, that wouldn't look like that. They wouldn't be rough like that. And then, of course, you've got this incredible colour between each of the bobbin turns here. Oh, look, WH. Aha. Any idea?
Not the slightest.
Probably the man who made it. These edges are as sharp can be. He picked good quality timber and did a good job. That was turned on a pole lathe, you know, those lathes.
Was it?
You know, the old string coming down from the larch spur, round the lathe, the pedal, up and down. So it went one way, then the other. Imagine doing that in the middle of the forest. This I love. All the signs of a good, pure piece of furniture. It has everything about it that is good. And it lifts it. Have you got it insured?
Not as such. It's included
In the household policy.
household policy.
Right. Normally, a little table like this would be within the household bracket, even given that age. 1,500 to 2,000 pounds, that sort of price. But this one, double it. 4,000.
It's not, is it?
For sure. That's a rare table.
It's nice to know.
Well, now we leave the people of Stafford and our experts for a moment for this week's Radio Times competition. But first, the answer to last week's poser. The question was, how much would this tea caddy fetch on the open market? And the answer is £8,500. Now to this week's object, and here it is. Magnificent, isn't it? This fine piece of silver weighs no less than 22 pounds. It's elaborately decorated from the top of its pineapple finial here right down to the base. And here, delicately engraved, is the coat of arms of the family for which it was made. Now, these garlands of fruit and flowers that link the two lion's head handles and the general strapwork decoration suggest that it was made in the beginning of the 18th century. And that indeed is confirmed by the hallmarks, which I can't really show you because they're tucked away inside the base. But the hallmarks are N, the date letter N, for 1728, and the maker's mark TF for Thomas Farron. He was one of the most notable silversmiths of his day, and this was widely regarded as his greatest piece, and I think I can understand why. Now, the top can be removed. It's hollow inside, and then further down the body of the piece, there's this rather ornate tap in the shape of a dolphin, which perhaps gives you some hint of the purpose of the vessel. So the question is, what is the name of this object? What is this object commonly called? Now, to help you, look at a copy of next week's Radio Times, which is published on Tuesday. That gives you a few suggested names together with more details of the competition. And then your answer needs to be in the post and addressed to the Radio Times, incidentally, not the Antiques Roadshow, by next Saturday. And if you do all that, you'll stand a chance of winning a really very worthwhile Antiques voucher.